Hello all. We have the pleasure to be among you today, and we have today a very hot session, starting with my brother, Professor Twalib Ngoma, who is very renowned clinical oncologist, and he will present to you his experience in Tanzania. Despite he have a great experience in Africa, in the world, international experience, and he was the past president of our African Organization for Research and Training Cancer. My brother Twalib, could you introduce yourself for 2 minutes, and then the video will run. Your nice, excellent video will run. We have it. Okay, Professor Twalib Ngoma, could you speak for 2 minutes? Then we'll let the video run.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Ahmed, for giving me this opportunity to be with the group here today. As you said, I've been working in Tanzania in the field of oncology for 30, 40 years. And today I'm going to share my experiences in oncology in Tanzania. And I tend to feel very different from other African countries. So let's start sharing the video that I prepared.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm seated here in my village. The weather is very good in Kilimanjaro, Tanzania. Tanzania is the land of Kilimanjaro. It's a beautiful country which has extensive network of 5,031 health facilities. Out of these, 4,412 are dispensaries, 402 health centers, 217 are hospitals, and we have 100 training institutions. But in this country, we have health challenges, including access to service for cancer patients. What I'm going to share with you today is cancer patients' experiences on access to cancer services in Tanzania. This experience is drawn from a research study that I conducted a couple of years ago. My research examined key findings on cancer patients' experiences on access to cancer services in Tanzania. The research was funded by the International Prevention Research Institute. I trust that all of you in the audience know as much as I do that it's bad to have cancer, but it's worse to have cancer when one is poor. The poor in Tanzania have less access to cancer patients. This is the finding from the study that we conducted. As part of the background information on Tanzania, when dealing with the subject of access to cancer services, I would like to say that the government of Tanzania has responded to the problem of access to cancer services with concerted action, in some cases achieving significant gains, especially the fact that there is serious funding limitation. For example, the allocation for health from the budget in Tanzania is 8.7%. This is very low even in relation to the Abuja declaration of 15%. We're almost just half of what the commitment in Abuja was, which was 15%. However, despite this low level of funding, there has been some improvement in cancer services, and hopefully, ultimately, there will be some improvement in health outcomes. What the government of Tanzania has done is to put in place a differentiated allocation of government funds and equitable cost-sharing policies in order to better prioritize the need of cancer patients. Cancer patients in Tanzania are exempted from the cost-sharing policy. So if the services are available through the government funding, no cancer patient will be denied cancer services. But the key word here is availability. You see, having good intention is one thing. Funding the intentions is another thing. What has happened over the year is the government has good intentions to fund cancer patients, but funding for cancer patients has not been adequate. When the budgets are prepared over the years, the government has always only been able to provide 30% of the requirements or less. Now, this means that there are patients who will not be able to access services in spite of the good intention. But again, one should not only think that low levels of access to cancer patients are only due to funding. There could be other reasons, but how can one get to know these reasons, get to know the barriers, get to know the facilitators, get to address the barriers, get to make sure that the facilitators are in place? The first step to do is to conduct research, to look at the barriers and the facilitators to access cancer services in Tanzania. So I decided to conduct a research, and my research questions were two. One, what are the key barriers that cancer patients in Tanzania face? And two, how can these barriers be solved? In this study, we recruited 1,000 cancer patients and interviewed them, and we got very interesting findings. One, 75% of interviewed cancer patients said they were concerned about the costs of cancer care. This is in spite of a government policy saying that they are exempted from cost sharing. Another 71% say that we are ready to pay more for health services, provided that the quality of services improve. So some felt that the quality of the service was not good and worth paying for. So these are things that could be improved without increasing the funding. Another thing that we noted was patients mentioned that deteriorating roads coupled with inadequate and unaffordable transport make it impossible for the poor to reach facilities where cancer patients are treated. Specifically, poor women with cancer face particular obstacles as they have neither the time, the money, or incentives to access distant and low quality care. So in summary, the quality of care and the fees appear to be key factors in demotivating people to utilize facilities. It's quality of fare, of services, and the fees, because in spite of the government policy, there are still unofficial payments and bribes. Patients say that there are corrupt unofficial payments in place, in particular significant financial burden on the poor cancer patient that have little time, little income flexibility. Official charges, whatever you have to pay, are not affordable. Now, if there is on top of that unofficial charged. This creates an impossible barrier for the poor cancer patients to overcome. Therefore, it denies them access to services. Another important finding from this study was drug availability. 34% of respondents said drugs were not available. 30, laboratory services were not available. 42 said that there was abuse, lack of care, lack of advice, lack of professionalism, and also the cleanliness of the environment where they're being treated. There was also mention about referral system problems as a cause of unnecessary delays caused by health workers. And especially when you have patients who started with the private facilities, whenever they shifted to the government facilities where cancer services were available, they said that they faced harassment and mistreatment, which they think and regarded as abusive, dangerous, and it took away the confidence of them getting the proper service that they were expecting. There is the issue of distance and cost of transport. Many cancer patients cannot afford transportation, so giving them a referral note is one thing. Them reaching the facility where the services are is another thing. So cost was a barrier. They cannot afford transportation costs, and if they were to afford it, they would need to sell their properties, the food, or borrow money to travel. If this is not possible, then they resort to using herbs and just wait to die. When we interviewed the managers of the hospitals regarding the challenges and barriers, they said that as far as they are concerned, limited and insufficient financial, material resources was the biggest barrier. So from the patients, there are other factors other than the funding from the government. From the managers of the services, it is the funding that was the biggest barrier. Now, what do we make out of these findings? What can we do? The evidence. We need to know why these barriers are there so that we can ask and answer the question, how can Tanzania, and for that matter, any African country, make quality cancer care available and accessible? Is throwing money to this problem the answer? Not really. I don't think more access to cancer services is going to be achieved by more funding alone. In the middle of corruption, bribery, and inefficient health systems. So in this situation, we should not ask ourselves the question, can we make cancer services accessible to our patients? Because a question like this, to start with, assumes we may not have the capacity. If we reframe this question and ask ourselves, how can we provide access to cancer patients? The how assumes we can do it. The solutions addressing the how can be provided through implementation research, looking at the context that the barriers are operating on, involving all the stakeholders, conducting dissemination meetings, planning the best use of available resources. Not necessarily waiting until there is more funding. There is room for improvement. Conducting local research in problems that are local can provide solutions and improve access to care and therefore our outcome results. In this talk, therefore, I want to underscore the importance of upcoming implementation science research course in improving cancer patients' outcome in our countries. It's a very important course. It could be a course that could be a game changer in what we do in cancer in our countries. With these closing remarks, I therefore wish you all the best in the course. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, my brother, Professor Twalib Ngoma. We have 15 minutes at the end of the session for question. And this is not only for the session, but why I really consider this honest and very scientific work as a document, one of the document of this program. So thank you very much. And we are looking for question answer after this session. And as you said that we are going to form something like game changers, and we promise you, and we promise all of you that all of you, with like Professor Twalib Ngoma and all colleagues, will be the game changer with the win-win initiative. Okay, now is the next. Hello all. I am glad to be among you today to present the 11th part of the session of our global oncology implementing science with battery cell program. What we'll present today is first this part 2 of 7 lectures. It's about examples of scientific explorations for resource-saving, better value cancer drug systemic therapy. As you see, it is composed of 7 video lectures, and these are just examples. And this is just to say that there are many published examples that could lead to resource-saving, better value cancer drug systemic therapy, and eventually increase access to cancer care, better cancer care in the world. The question is, why we don't go forward in implementation? You are the advocate for this everywhere in the world. We just here, this is present lectures, and this is not in passive way, but interaction. But you will improve all this. You will build on all this. Please, every one of you, be the ambassador, be the advocate, be the leader in his place for progression of this message. course direct is all based on chapter 15. I'm the author, but the course directors are Eduardo Gazab, David Kerr, Professor David, all are professors, surely. Professor Eduardo Gazab, David Kerr, Carol Sicora, Wilfred Negua, Cristina Stefan, Twalib Ngoma, Ricardo Odisio, and Luca Incrucci, and me. Slides prepared by Dr. Fifi El Sayed and reviewed by me as the author. The first is how to change the infusion regime in order to give lower doses. Here we present the example of gemcitabine. It is based on pharmacokinetic studies that have taken place with the aim of lowering drug dose and therefore the cost by changing the infusion regime. The phase 1-2 trials of prolonged infusion of low-dose gemcitabine are one example. And there are many, but start with this. It could be, it could be employed, could be used studied for many others. The usual dose of 1,000 to 1,025 milligram meter square used for one patient might be enough for 4 to 5 patients and produce comparable results for responses of solid cancer, such as non-small lung cancer and breast, pancreatic, and bladder cancers. And this is the reference. Hence, it's based on pharmacokinetic studies to lower the dose by changing the regime of infusion. This is implied by application of pharmacological information and how the drug is transformed to its active ingredient in the body. An example is the low dose prolonged infusion of gemcitabine. Hence, the habitual dose, we can reduce it. Phase 1 or phase 2 trial, low dose gemcitabine in prolonged infusion, 250 and 180 milligram meter square for 6 and for 24 hours. Explain this. It was tried to use 250 milligram meter square for infusion of 6 hours and reduce it more also to 180 milligram along 24 hours. And it's comparable. It's comparable result in responding solid cancer like non-small lung cancer, breast, pancreas, and bladder cancer are encouraging. What is the explanation of this in this example particularly? That the saturation of enzyme called deoxytidine kinase needed for conversion of gemcitabine to its active gemcitabine triphosphate. And this is the active compound, not what we inject. What we inject, which occur after short conventional infusion and leave most of the drug unmetabolized. That is to say, this enzyme is lazy enzyme, needs time. So when we give it bolus, so most of the dose will not be transformed to active gemcitabine triphosphate. So it will excreted unmetabolized. It is a waste, you see. Less frequent cycle, like example of zoledronic I'm sorry, I share the screen to make it big. Zoledronic and Zomita, 5 milligram every 12 weeks instead of 4 weeks in case of bone metastasis. It may be time to change the dosing schedule of zoledronic acid to every 12 weeks instead of every 4 weeks, whenever possible. I repeat here and have reserve, whenever possible, because and after clinical assessment. It's not a routine to reduce to have less frequent. Zoledronic acid, a potent biphosphonate, is commonly administered into patients with bone metastasis to reduce the risk of skeletal-related events. However, there have been concerns regarding its long-term monthly administration. Randomized studies are conducted And it shows that the 12-week regime in zoledronic acid was not inferior to the 4 weeks regime for the proportion of patients experiencing one or more skeletal related events. And here is the reference. Nivolumab, although there is no dispute that these drugs are highly effective for some cancer patients, there are opportunities to reduce prescribing dose, prescribing dose, and then reduce the cost. So this is frequency, and this done by a reduction of unit dosage, frequency, or duration of dosing. In this article, as Ratan, this is an example, okay, for Ratan, very, very important publication by Ratan and Goldstein, and other publication of Ratan are very, very important. And I give an example here, stated that the time is money. We specifically focus on nivolumab in the context of its recent label change from 240 milligram every 2 weeks to 480 milligram every 4 weeks. Yes, some say there is no big difference. The difference here, according to Ratan, is just less frequency, so saving time. But there are other examples which is more exciting. You would see that. Goldstein and Ratan searched for the right dose and frequency of atezolizumab. It is I pronounce slowly, okay, because I know that some colleagues are maybe would like to have other trade name or something, and at the same time it is not all have background of medical oncology and pharmacology. No problem. We are speaking about cancer modality in general. We will have example in radiotherapy, in surgery. Oh, no problem. But it's the concept of how to reduce cancer care via scientific approaches. It is PD-L1 inhibitor approved by use of non-small lung cancer, small cell lung cancer, and urothelial carcinoma, and triple-negative breast cancer. As with other checkpoint inhibitors, initial studies used weight-based dosing prior to switching to a strategy for fixed dosing for all patients. The authors advocated using of standard 840 milligram dose, but with dosing interval greater than the recommended interval of 2 weeks, every 3 or 4 weeks. Besides, another alternative, they used therapeutic dose monitoring. This is very important about therapeutic dose drug monitoring, when it is abbreviated as TDM. TDM, therapeutic dose monitoring, to individualize the frequency of dosing with the objective of maintaining a therapeutic through concentration. In minimum blood, the plasma concentration reached by a drug prior to administration of second dose was proposed earlier as conservative target based on preclinical studies. Here is the reference. The reduce of use of those eventually to use less costs, and this should be these concepts should be taken as according to Ratan and others, and we stress on it that these concepts reduce the use of would not only reduce the use of scarce health care resources, but it also provide increased convenience for patients, requiring fewer visits to infusion sites, and this is more comfortable, less cost, less cost of transport, etc. An alternative and even cheaper method of dosing individualization could use and albumin changes as a surrogate for clearance changes. This is very important approaches. Albumin changes as surrogate for clearance changes. This approach has been previously investigated for durvalumab. The era of both personalized medicine and budget constraint in this era, okay, the dosing of atezolizumab provide greater opportunity. Atezolizumab, and you'll find it in the text. And Pembro, our famous Pembro that all of us are using it, pembrolizumab, Pembro, and phase 2 trial, clinical trials were conducted, studied how well Pembro, others, this is trade names, Keytruda and others. Some of you are used to hear about it and to use it, surely. Given every 12 weeks, worked compared to administration of every 3 weeks in treating patients with non-small lung cancer. Immunotherapy using monoclonal antibodies such as pembrolizumab, may help the body immune system to attack cancer and may interfere with the ability of tumor cells to grow and spread. Giving pembrolizumab every 12 weeks may provide similar disease control and fewer treatment for patients with non-small lung cancer compared to administration of every 3 weeks, demonstrating that the 12-week dosing as effective as 3 weeks dosing may also have significant impact when the cost of this medication are considered, and as most of the time is considered, and maybe all the time. Shorter courses, as you all of you are familiar with these shorter courses of trastuzumab, could be option in HER2 negative, positive early breast cancer. Current guidelines recommend 1 year of anti-HER2 new antibody therapy as part of standard adjuvant treatment for HER2 new positive breast cancer, based on the duration of treatment and used in pivotal registration trials. It would be interesting to determine whether a shorter course of trastuzumab could potentially achieve similar efficacy with lower risk of side effects and reduce costs. The shorter HERT trial is named HERT trial. Okay, enormously selected patients for shorter courses. Both groups and had similar shorter courses, and the usual courses had similar disease-free survival and lower risk of cardiac toxicity resulted for 9 weeks course of adjuvant trastuzumab compared to that resulting from treatment of 1 year. So it is not only a comparable in outcome, but less cardiac toxicity. Okay, this is under studies, and another study demonstrated that with the reduction of duration of trastuzumab, which caused this cardiac toxicity, and this study is also, you have the reference and everything. It when average cost saving nearly 10,000 pound and per patient. This result supports the consideration of reduced duration trastuzumab for women at trastuzumab again, for women at similar risk of recurrence to those included in the trial. And there are other trials here. I cited here, and you have the reference here. It's very interesting, but all is around shorter courses or trastuzumab. This is the end of part 2 out of 7. Thank you all. We count on all you to advocate for this message and to lead this global initiative that belongs to all of you. Your feedback, suggestions, ideas, and contributions are welcome. And here is just log in or this is a link, and your feedback are welcome. Thank you all, and looking to always to hear from you, and you are the advocate for this. This is not only course, but it is to spread the message. Why are you? You are the leader everywhere. Going forward in fruitful cooperation. Thank you all. Hello. I'm glad to be among you today. Today we are sharing together the part 3 of 7 of examples of scientific explorations for resource-saving, better value cancer drugs, systemic therapy. As you see, again, this is part 3 of 7 video lectures, and there are other many. And that is to say that in scientific approaches to increase access to cancer care is possible from scientific point of view. All of you are ambassadors, are advocates, are leaders for this message everywhere in the world. It's not just a few minutes or some minutes of videos and goodbye, but or courses and the certificate at the end. But what is more important, that you advocate for this. These courses are yours. Please, you can use these videos as an access for all playlists, for all the recorded video you can use in your institute, or for your postgraduate, for your colleagues, for your colleagues from different modalities of cancer, in your country, in your society, or your organization. Please use it. If you would like to have a text, PDF text of slides, just send to me and you receive it. Okay, this is yours. We didn't invent anything. But the success of this count on you and your spreading the word of this message. In order to serve millions, it is possible to serve millions of cancer patients in the world. You are the pioneer and the hero of this endeavor. Disclosure from conflicts, none. If you notice that the most of the slides that the text is not short, with few words or lines, also as much as possible we add some reference. It is intentionally to be used as PDF material for all who would like to receive copy. Note one, along the GOIS program in this short in this short lecture, we do not only transfer some information in a passive way, but also we raise brainstorming points. So the feedback of positive interaction are welcome during the assessment, also during the assessment of the participant in this course. Moreover, it is encouraged to receive your feedback, critical appraisal, comments, and suggestions from all experts and audience who listen to this video in any occasion after this program, during and after. This is yours. All your feedback is considered. Summary of some selected feedback will appear in the next editions or new books or courses with citing the names of the sender after your permission, surely. Note two, as we agreed together, the win-win initiative and the GOIS, we adopted the flexibilities of thoughts, free flow of ideas, classic and innovative approaches, and that all be focused on scientific and practical implementation in order to serve the goal to increase affordability of better value cancer care in the world. Here is the course directors, Professor Eduardo Gaza, Professor David Kerr, Professor Kiro Sikora, Professor Wilfred Negwa, Professor Cristina Stefan, Professor Tualim Ngoba, Professor Ricardo Odessi, Professor LucaNcrucci, and me. And plus, surely more than 100 co-authors in these books and inspired from them, and they share directly in writing as co-authors. More than 100 distinguished colleagues and experts from all over the world and from higher institutes in the world. Here, today we discuss dose optimization of new drugs, new oncology drugs. Outside oncology drugs are usually evaluated. Drugs are usually evaluated to optimize the therapeutic index in randomized dose ranking trials. Please listen, this is very important point, prior to essential phase 3 trials. So, outside oncology, this is what is done. But it is logical that the dosing of non-cancer drugs consider this notion and does not select the highest dose that patient can tolerate, the maximum tolerated dose. Please remember this term, maximum tolerated dose, as Professor David Kerr also pointed this, and Professor Kirosikour and all. We are agree together on that there should be a major change in many things, particularly if that dose could produce chronic toxicities. In fact, it is aligned with the sound pharmacological rules. What we are saying here are based on publication of distinguished authors, and it goes with the sound pharmacological rule. We didn't invent anything. And with global regulatory guidance, such as that of USA Food and Drug Administration itself. And here is the reference. Surprisingly, this rule is not obligatory for groups of new cancer drugs, such as monoclonal antibodies and kinase inhibitors, which are very expensive, and patients are prone to toxicity also. All type of toxicity, including financial and physical toxicity and everything. Many early phase studies of modern targeted therapy still continue to seek for maximum tolerated dose, MTD. Remember this, MTD, maximum tolerated dose, and rely on this MTD for later phase trials and potential labeling. So it is from the start. It is over. It is over. So it passed after phase 2 and phase 3 was over. It is over. What we are in the guide, most of the guidelines is over. Historically, the chemotherapy for cancer drugs, there was a general belief that more or higher dose is better. But it's surely not the case. This notion is still to be still valid. How? It is not right for new targeted cancer drugs such as monoclonal antibodies or kinase inhibitors. It's not scientific. It's not sense, and it costs a lot. In 2021, Rattan and Lichter, please refer to this reference, is very nice lecture. Many of the articles of Rattan and Lichter and Rattan and Goldstein are really, I learned a lot from these articles. Like I learned a lot from Ian Tannock and from many great. I didn't claim that I invented things. We don't present here inventing things. Despite that, is surprising to guidelines and surprising to many things that we practice. Rattan and Lichter stated that it should seek the optimal dose, the lowest dose that gives the maximum biologic and clinical effect. Since once the target is fully inhibited or the receptor saturated, there is no reason to give a higher dose. This is important. Why it is not implemented? This is surprisingly. No, it's not so big to surprise because we know this interest and there are incentives and okay. Thus, dosing that to toxicity is illogical and conflicts with the principles of clinical pharmacology. This is a conflict with the principle of clinical oncology. We advocate for applying the principles of clinical pharmacology that are widely accepted outside oncology. Here is a plea from, yes, it's up to the level, it's a plea from Mark Rattan and Alan Lichter to empower the PDA. It's published, and there is a reference here. What they publish. There is a great need for dose optimization evidence for all new cancer drugs, including targeted cancer drugs and monoclonal antibodies. It's very serious thing there. Okay, please listen to this, and we have the PDF, you have the chapter, you have the reference here, you have everything. Accordingly, in a plea published by the ASCO Post on January 2021, it's published in ASCO Post, Mark Rattan and Alan Lichter argued that the FDA should require pharmaceutical companies to optimize the dose as a condition of likely accelerated approval. There is also a request that FDA should demand that all sponsors submit a new drug application to provide evidence of dose optimization in accordance with all guidance document, with the exception of breakthrough drugs, for which it would be permitted to optimize the dose requirement just for a period, for a dosing regime after approval as post-marketing condition, Okay. A plea from Market Rattan continued. Professor Mark Rattan and Richter argued that the FDA for optimizing the dose and not to optimize highest dose it's expensive and time consuming to go back and redo a dose optimization strategy. So it should be done from the start. Yes, from now. It is more sensible to do this work upfront. Yes. And alternatively, for the FDA to negotiate or appropriate for negotiate an appropriate strategies that would permit rapid approval while also achieving the goal of minimizing adverse events. This concerns human beings and toxicities and cost and results. It is high time for the FDA. It is a high time for FDA, Food and Drug Administration USA, to reject the obsolete maximally tolerated dose concept for modern targeted oncology drugs. Okay, this statement from Mark Rattan and Lichter and other scientists is clear, short. It is high time for FDA in the United States to reject the obsolete maximally tolerated dose concept for modern targeted oncology drugs. However, there is also an opportunity for the FDA to require that the sponsor optimize dosing upfront, either before or soon after the approval as a post-marketing condition. Continue from the plea of Mark Rattan and Alan Lichter. Although FDA has done so for several drugs, the vast majority of oncology drugs over the last decade have been developed and approved for their maximally tolerated dose, which is wrong. For cancer drugs, for the new drugs, leading to off-target adverse event that may be fatal, as in the case of ibrutinib. In this example, and this reference here. Furthermore, Rattan and Lichter give striking latest example of new drug application field by Amgen that relate sotorasib, previously known as this MEG 510, for the treatment of patients with KRAS G12C mutant locally advanced or metastatic non-small lung cancer following at least one preceding systemic therapy. A similar drug, adagrasib, is being developed by a company called Mirati Therapeutics. Both drugs are thrilling and promising. KRAS G12C mutant tumors primarily consist of non-small lung cancers and colorectal cancers. And This is in phase 1, which aimed by Amigen to give maximum tolerated dose again of sotorasib for patient for this colorectal with non-small lung cancers. The protocol used by Bayesian logistic regression model, which is, yes, it is scientific till now, protocol used by Bayesian logistic regression model that aimed at to elicit dose limiting toxicity in 20% to 33% of the patient, regardless of the fact that the drug may be effective without any toxicity. It used the Bayesian logistic regression model, but it ignores the fact that the drug may be effective without any toxicity. It's serious here. Given its mutant target, it has stated that most probably the starting dose of 180 milligram and not the concept of maximum tolerated dose 980 milligram. You see the difference between 980 milligram and 180 milligram is huge in amount and in cost and everything, and toxicities. It's expected that to be safe as well as potentially effective. You imagine this. This one trial recommends the administration of sotorasib under fasting condition without any apparent validation. Here another point. They asked to use it under fasting condition without any apparent validation and showed higher variability. A finding commonly observed for drug whose absorption is augmented by food. So the drug may be augmented by food, so the dose may be more reduced, even less than what 180 milligram. You mentioned this. So, but this is needed studies. Therefore, there is no evidence that the dosing regime used in the Amigen pivotal trial, 960 milligram with daily fasting, is optimal. This is Rattan and Alan Lister. You imagine how serious these things? In fact, it's likely that much lower dose of a drug administered with food may have superior therapeutic index. So it needs scientific studies. It needs scientific studies. That's what we say, scientific approaches. So it is very important to know what is the dose that produces the maximum biological and clinical effect could be done of the scientific approach to reduce the cost of the drug and potential adverse event by developing off-label dosing regime that use pharmacologically justified dosing. We are not presenting just talks. We are not adopting just talks and about charity and about, no. It is based on pharmacological studies and pharmacologically justified dosing. This is aligned with the interventional pharmacoeconomic term used coined by Rattan and Goldstein and Lister. This is very important. This is very nice term, really. Interventional pharmacoeconomic, here IVPE. It is coined by them, while pharmacoeconomic is observation science that usually focus on the value of and affordability of pharmaceutical intervention. The proposed concept of interventional pharmacoeconomics mean an attempt to disruptively decrease drug prescription costs through development of new dosing regime while maintaining equivalent efficacy. Compromising the outcomes of patient. Even all these studies aim at better value for cancer patient value, and with less toxicity and less cost. Again, Rattan and Alan Lister to empower the plea to empower the FDA and ask it to scientific community for the optimization of therapeutic index and reduce the cost of new target molecular drugs for patients with cancer everywhere in the world. It is everywhere. Yes, it is started in the United States, and it is because it's the biggest scientific base, and we always refer to this as a start. But the objective is the patient all over the world. It is global. As shown in different parts of this book, our previous publication and presentation, the win-win movement focus on scientific approaches that could lead to an increase in the affordability of better value cancer care, including lowering the total cost of cancer patients as one of these approaches. Scientific studies that aim to decrease the high cost of cancer drug prescription by initiatives such as the urgently needed initiative, IVPE, constitute important a component of approaches to reduce the total cost of cancer care. We emphasize the huge gap in affordability of better value cancer care and the need of big global campaign and forum. Please advocate for this. All of you, not only who hear me, who watch me now or listen to me now, but advocate for your colleagues, in your society, in your community, for other colleagues everywhere in the world, also not only in your country. You are the ambassador and the leader. There is the need of a global campaign, not just advocate and speak and talk, but global scientific campaign and forum and exchange of information. This win-win, by the way, is a forum for all. It is not mine, it is not yours, it is for all. We describe this book using a new term coined by Ahmed, is living book, which includes links to videos. So there are many links to the video, but at the same time, this is a feedback, and feedback you can always there's a link in the books and everything. You can send your feedback, even critical appraisal, and this will be sent to many experts, and you have we can update and we change and modify. The first international summit on interventional pharmacoeconomic, it was in 2022, organized by the Value in Cancer Care Consortium, include important presentation by distinguished experts. And here you find link to some of the video and many things very important. And you have very recordings of this the session. You can find it here. Okay. Of this the first international summit on interventional pharmacology, because we see this is a living book. It is living courses, videos and interaction, and you keep it after. And if you visit the library of the website, you find these links, and you see the video. You can interact and send to us, and we send to experts, and so on. It's living. According to Lister, to Mark Lattin and Alan Lister, there is needed advocacy for this. It could be contribute the optimization of therapeutic index and reduce the cost of new targeted and monoclonal drugs for patients with cancer everywhere in the world, not by talks, by scientific action. As shown in different parts of the book, our previous publication presentations, where we focus on scientific approaches that could lead to the increased affordability of better value cancer care. It's repeated here, I'm sorry. This plea from Mark Lattin. Moreover, we see it in different occasions in the book and the GOIS courses. Links for feedback and proposal and suggestion will be available to all readers. Hence, our objective of the win-win publication and this course to be start is a big stimulus and not end point. This is not end by this lecture or other lecture or the plea of Alan Rattan and the great Alan Rattan and Richter and Louis Nipper and his not very important initiative. No, but we start with this. Hence, our objective in the win-win and publication in this course to start a big global stimulus and not an endpoint. The cost of target therapy drugs routinely exceed 100,000 per patient of year, endangering patient access and adherence to cancer therapy and threatening whole health system. You imagine this. And even as I said it before, and this is published in Medscape and other publication, that the average new 13 cancer drugs, the average price exceed $257,000, and now it exceeds this. I mean, maybe 280 or something. But the average, who can afford? Target therapies such as monoclonal antibodies and oral small molecule now compromise the bulk of anti-cancer drug expenditure, while newly developed oral drugs experience sustained prices increase of 10%, more than 10% annually. This trend is not expected to be changed if we continue as we are. If we continue as we are, this skyrocketing will increase and the difficulty will increase. So this is the moment for scientific approaches to win-win scenarios, and in which all will gain. Otherwise, there will be collapse. Example of proposal of scientific studies that aim to lower dosage while retaining comparable efficacy, reducing the dose from 420 to 140 daily. This pilot study of lower dose of ibrutinib in patients with chronic lymphocytic leukemia was completed and published. During the phase 1 trial, ibrutinib lower doses resulted in similar proton tyrosine kinase target occupancy, which is the target. Okay, and occupancy target assay to those for highest dose tested. This pharmacokinetic pharmacodynamic data demonstrates that after the first cycle of ibrutinib and at the standard of 420 milligram dose, the dose can be reduced without losing biological effects. Such dose reduction and would lower the drug cost, lessen unwanted toxicity, and facilitate rational-based combination. Erlotinib, Tarceva, which is known as Tarceva by many of you, used in patients with non-small lung cancer and pancreatic tumor, reducing the dose from 150 milligram to 100 or even 150 milligram daily. This promising approach, further studies are needed to reduce the dose. Dasatinib, used to treat certain types of certain type of chronic myeloid leukemia, reducing the dose from 100 to 50 milligram. Again, dasatinib is known by many of you as Spersil, as you know. It's tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Okay. Dasatinib is currently used to treat chronic myeloid leukemia at dose of 100 milligram per day. The dose can cause myelosuppression and pleural effusions. Low-dose dasatinib continue to demonstrate faster and deeper molecular response in comparison with standard dose dasatinib. The lack of new safety signal was also noted during this follow-up, which suggested that dasatinib given at 50 milligram per day may be appropriate option for the initial chronic myeloid leukemia. So you see, half the dose is considerable. And as you see in other example, it was much less than the half. Okay, it's very how we cannot study this. Pembro used in patients with non-small lung cancer, melanoma, bladder, head and neck, converting from flat 200 milligram dose to 2 milligram dose of Pembro. This also very important study. Value-based prescribing strategy do not compromise outcomes for new oral drugs alone. Could save 12 billions and more globally per year. This is in the United States only, which is the biggest market. 12 billions and more globally per year. You imagine the number, the sum. This approach by this approach only, but not all the win-win initiatives, but this is by this approach only. This approach does not compromise outcome and efficacy. It could save, sorry, about, in some cases, 94,000 per patient a year for new oral oncology drugs. Sorry. You imagine similar opportunity for long-lived parental monoclonal antibodies. This is end of part 3 of 7. Thank you all. I'm sorry. We count on all of you to advocate for this message and lead to these global initiatives that belongs to all. Your feedback, suggestion, ideas, and conditions are welcomed. I would like to say a note that for all, you may notice that this is my French English international, or French international English, because my second language is French and English is third. And my postgraduate and my studies and medical study was in for oncology was in Paris when I was younger, and also my first the first part of my career was in Paris also. So and now it is I am old. It's too late to change for accent, American accent or English. Despite that, I like them, but it's too late. So thank you for listening. Merci beaucoup. Bye bye. À bientôt. Bye bye. Please, you are the pioneer sent to us. Going forward, hand in hand. My dear colleagues, this is just parts of the 7 lectures, and even these 7 lectures are present examples. And the question, as my brother Twalib asked, why there is no implementation of science? These are barriers, we know, where there are incentives, and they're important. Other news I would like to tell you quickly before receiving question or intervention, that we'll have panels starting from 27 March to 24 April. We'll invite experts to discuss this, what you hear now, to discuss and the flexibility of thoughts and the outcome after 2 hours, and panels of experts with invited leaders from ASCO from everywhere. And we'll hear from every expert. And I hope that my brother Twalib Ngoma lead one of this session, and my brother Professor Christina lead of one of this session also. There are 5 sessions, and then will be followed by other series for radiotherapy, for publication, and others. So what we are doing now is not just this 20 colleagues or who are participated. No, it is document and will be discussed, and we promise you that we are raising the flag of game changing. Now there are 20, but tomorrow will be 1,000 who will say this, and we develop this and would say better than us and develop us, because we didn't invent anything. We count on you to be advocates and ambassadors. Be patient. This will be the model and the fashion tomorrow. That is why we ask the younger generation to raise the flag. Professor Christina, if you would like to add something, and waiting your leadership of one of this panel, and you and Professor Twalib Ngoma.
Thank you so much. Good evening to everyone. Really another inspiring lecture. Thank you so much. And it was really a pleasure to see Twalib here. Perhaps more than that, let me play being the resident today, and maybe come up with a question to Professor Twalib. I mean, really inspiring presentation. I think Twalib is already online, right?
Yes.
One question to him would be, if you were, let's say, again, at the beginning of your career, or with the experience that you have now, if it would be one advice that you'd give to the young generation, what would that be? So that's a question for Twalib. And then I have a question also for Professor Ahmed. I think, just to make it a little bit more interactive with the young generation, of course, you can feel a lot of passion and a lot of information and a lot of data. But then again, if I am one of your listeners, one of your, let's say, young residents, if I could do something tomorrow, what would that small little thing be? What advice do you give me in terms of being a young resident? I would like to do something. Tell me exactly what to do. So let me start with Professor Twalib, because he's one of our pillars of oncology in Africa. I mean, we've been learning from him for so many years. And let's just see how he can share of all his wisdom, with us and the young generation, obviously the young generation that is to come.
Thank you very much, Christina, and a very happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
In the beginning of my career today, or what I would advise young oncologists to do is, one, to note that the problem of cancer is increasing globally, and to focus on cancer control, comprehensive cancer control, so that each national cancer control program. Today we have been talking about treatment of cancer, access, availability. But if we look at cancer comprehensively, the component of cancer control has a bearing on other components. If we prevent cancer, and there are preventable cancers, then we will not need to treat them. If we have screening programs in place, then it means we can pick the cancers early, and the treatments that we are talking about today will have more effect and outcomes on our treatment, on the cancers that we treat. If we focus also on diagnosis, then some of the patients that are at the moment do not get access to diagnostics facilities, these will be improved so that then they can be treated properly. But we should not forget palliative care, which in most cases is required when one cannot curative treatment. So I would want the young oncologists to look at cancer from a comprehensive point of view, and then improve component, make sure that each component is functioning properly, so that when you talk about access to treatment, it's access to treatment that is going to be effective and have impact in the outcomes that we have. The drugs that my brother Ahmed has been talking about do work, but only a small percentage of cancers. The majority of cancers can still be treated with the treatments that are already available, but we get better results when they are treated at early stage. That's why I want them to look at that. Cervical cancer, for example, which is very common in Africa, is a disease that is curable, is a disease that is preventable, is a disease that we have a screening test for. And if these are looked, it means that we can decrease the magnitude of the problem of cervical cancer in our countries, like in developed countries. So this is how I would advise young upcoming oncologists to look at the problem of cancer from a comprehensive national cancer control program that will take care of this, so that whatever resources are used for treatment are going to be used for early disease, for diseases that could not be prevented, And for those that are prevented, they should be prevented. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Talib. I totally agree with you. Such an inspiring message and such a wise message for the younger generation. Thank you once again. And then Ahmed.
Well, you may notice that I in this lecture, I concentrate on the challenge of the new drugs that make pressure overall. But we have a comprehensive picture in some part of the course. You will see that we'll present a complete lecture about how to treat double and sometimes triple the number of patients of radiotherapy with the available equipment that we have. This is a lecture, and there are more than one chapter like this in our book. So we have a comprehensive. We are dealing with all dimensions, with all the challenges. And for the resident, I tell them, please, the science is your argument, because this challenge will come sooner or later. That it's a challenge of that we cannot continue like this. And from this, we are not against pharmaceutical company, we are not in industry, no, not at all. But all will collapse. Nobody can afford this kind of skyrocketing total cost, while there is no commensurate or there is no increase of outcome comparable to this increase of cost. The outcome is not increasing too much in comparison to cost. So with science and with this approach that we say, this is your approach to be win-win, that all will win. We cannot continue like this. And what we are saying today, I assure you, that will be said tomorrow and very near by thousands of people. So be the leader and give the stimulus. It's not the group who are listening now, but it is a spark. This spark, really. But what my advice that please go to science, please read, because this is your argument. If a company tell you or argument or guidelines that not fit you, how you say this good line is not fit me in Tanzania or in Egypt? By science, by trials. Otherwise, I'll put my patient in risk. It's not by talks, not by slogan, not by say saving cost. No, but how to say that I am not compromising my patient. We say always this treatment again is best support and palliative care, that we say it in Egypt, here in many countries. But where is this best supportive and palliative care? Exactly as said my brother Twalib, we are need to global approach, seeing all aspects, not to concentrate in one aspect only. And this is what we are doing in the course. There are many things very interesting. We are going to even to solar power energy, because as you say, how I can do this while I have no electricity? No, can solar power energy, you can produce electricity and make the hospital work, make your CT scan work, make everything work, and you sell electricity, and with this money you can buy some drug, some treatment to the patient. Think in innovative ways, think smartly. It is, again, I repeat this, it is smartly and not hardly. So I would like if Christina ask any other colleagues in there are Beatrice, there are Tawfiq, there are Abdullahi, there are many colleagues if they have questions that ask you and take the leadership. Go on.
So from my point of view, I mean, I don't see any other better way to sort of end this lecture, this inspiring lecture, with the two answers already received, one from Twalib, with really a wise advice to the young generation, approach cancer from the comprehensive point of view, comprehensive cancer control. And I think from your advice, which actually includes quite a number of advices, I would take two messages, to summarize for the younger generation. One is science, and the second, be the leader. I was really impressed by this message.
Thank you, Christina. We have a lot of things to say. We have a lot of lecture after. So be together, and be together also not only in the lecture, but we discuss all what we said, these hot points with panel and expert, and we are very open to any scientific critics, to any modification, to any suggestion. Maybe this suggestion was different with what we have, but could be better. So thank you all. Be together, hand in hand. You are the game changer. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.